So welcome. It's the latest episode of the comically named Talking Balls podcast. So, and I'm Michael Wright, Wrighto74 is my gamer tag, and with me today we've got I'm getting the year right, Mumford. I'm getting Mumford1969. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah. You can do 1989, make it younger if
you want. Well, I always thought I've got Wrighto74, and people might have thought it was 74 for the year. Whereas the more I'm playing, the more I'm realizing it's my aspiration for the break that I should be getting on average. Everyone else has got 147 on their name. I've got 74.
Yeah, I retrospectively, I think I should have called myself Maxi Mumford. That would have been better.
Never too late to change, is it?
Well, no, there's always that.
So, it's good for you to come on, and obviously Stuart May, you have a name that people might know you as well. And so this, for anybody who's new or that maybe hasn't tuned in before, we've kind of, the podcast has come out from the PlayStation League, so the Snooker 19 PlayStation League, and so it's always really nice to talk to fellow gamers in the league and to find out more about them in terms of their experience in the league, but also about them as people and about snooker in the wider sense. And we're recording this today. I mean, I hope by the time this comes out that we've got like really good news, because this is the day of the Euro 2020 final, which is tonight at 8 o'clock. So fingers crossed on that one. Are you going to be watching that, Stuart?
I don't watch football. I'm not a great football fan, but I just out of interest, I'll be watching it. I watched the semi-final, so I'll be watching the final, but I know virtually nothing about football, so it's just as a part-time sort of watcher of football.
Yeah, well, that's probably the best way to be, because in a way you'll enjoy the occasion more than being like fingernails down to the bottom because you're so worried about the game, perhaps.
Yeah, more out of curiosity than for the watching for the intricacies of the sport, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, and I'm sure there'll be loads of people tonight who wouldn't normally watch, but yeah, it feels like a big national occasion all of a sudden, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So on to the game then. Obviously the Snooker 19 PlayStation League. So this has been going now for a little while, and for a lot of people it's really helped steer them, I think, through the pandemic so far and through furlough for a lot of people. So I guess I'm interested really in your background to the game. So almost when you started and how you started.
Well, I've never really been a computer game fan. I didn't play computer games for years, decades. When I was a teenager, I played Donkey Kong, putting Tempe in the slot, playing that. But my mates, it was the early days of like computer gaming, and I wasn't really interested in joining my mates on their computers. But it all started when me and a mate of mine from work went to go and watch the, I think it was the Grand Prix final that was at Cheltenham. That was in February, just before lockdown happened.
Yeah.
So driving up, my mate, he had a PlayStation and he had Snooker 19, so he was telling me all about it. So then a month or so later, when lockdown happened, and because all sport came to a dead stop, like snooker on the television, I'm a huge horse racing fan, so I couldn't watch that.
Yeah.
And, so I thought, what am I going to do with all my time that I usually watch sport? So I thought, I'll buy a PlayStation and I'll get that Snooker 19 game and see how that goes.
Right.
So
yeah.
I think I bought it in about April, May time last year. Yeah. And I started off playing against the computer, the AI mode, and like going on the career mode. And I found it was all right, but there wasn't really there was no adrenaline for playing against a computer. So then I signed up for the PS Live, where I'd be able to play it online against players. And immediately, I don't know why, but immediately I just got that competitive buzz. I was actually playing someone who else was watching the same time as I was. I mean, playing against AI, you're the only one watching it. The computer's not watching it, so it's so
a bit hollow in a way, isn't it? A bit hollow sometimes.
Yeah. So I never went back to playing against the AI after playing live. I just played online tournaments. So that's really how I got into playing the Snooker 19 game online. I then noticed, I think on a Facebook page about PlayStation, that No Guts, No Glory was advertising players who wanted to join the online league. So I thought, yeah, that sounds good. So I'll give that a go.
Yeah.
So I messaged him, signed up, and this was about May last year. So the first division I played was I think it was League 3 or something then, which I ended up winning on the very last game and getting promoted. So
wow.
That's how it all began, really, and been on it ever since and thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's
yeah. Yeah, and you've done very well. We'll talk in a minute about your progress, because you're in a big season really for yourself, and a place that people want to get to in the top division. So I'll ask you about that in a minute, because I'm sure you'll have some reflections on how it's gone so far. But yeah, you're going back to really. So anyone who doesn't know about it, in this league that we're talking about, it's almost modelled league-wise as the football league in terms of the structure, with the Premier and then the Championship, Leagues 1, 2, etc. So it's that kind of break. But and just, you know, the AI part of it, I don't know about you, there are most of it I think are rubbish in terms of compared to real day, you know, playing each other. The only things I must admit I missed, though, I don't know what you think, is that you can speed up your opponent, so you can toggle it on your key, and you can just go, oh, do you know what, this guy's taking so long, so you can just speed it up, which is great. But
obviously, I was constantly on that, just right click.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So you know, that was perfect. And sometimes when you're waiting for someone, it can be a bit boring, a bit difficult. But anyway, and I guess the other bit was the bit with the fouls. I don't know about you, but sometimes the AI, they'd either get out of the most difficult foul you could imagine setting, the snooker you can set, or they just keep, you know, give you about 50 points if you let them, and just keep putting them back in again. And there was always glitches in it and how they got out of fouls.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember a great deal about it, because I didn't spend too long on the AI playing against it. I just found it that what your opponent was playing was contrived in a way to. It was like, that's the end result, and this is the shot that they're going to play to get you into that snooker or whatever. It was just, you couldn't compete against it.
No,
well, you could when it was your turn, but you wanted to feel like you was playing someone that was playing something fairly realistic.
Yeah. And I guess the opponents in real life, your opponents, you know, they care about it. So, you know, there's something on the line, you both want to win. But also you can suss out weaknesses, can't you? Or strengths, and you can think, well, that's something they're great at, so I'm going to have to change my game a bit to try and limit their chances to keep doing that to me. Whereas the game, it's just, it doesn't play out the same way, does it? There's no variability. There's almost a pattern that goes into.
Yeah. But like I said, I didn't really spend much time against the AI, so I don't have a great deal of experience on it.
No. So you're in the league. You obviously, your gamer tag is Mumford1969, and I mean, you're on brand today. I've just noticed you've got like Mumford on your t-shirt there.
Yeah, I bought this t-shirt from Los Angeles.
Okay.
I went there 18 months ago on a trip to America to. One of my bucket list ones was to go to the Breeders' Cup horse racing meeting, which is like a world championships horse racing that's held every year, and it was held at Santa Anita that year, which is in, near Los Angeles. So I went over for about 8 or 9 days. I caught up with some American cousins as well that lived local to there. So so that was good. It was so yeah, and there was when I was on maps in Los Angeles, I noticed the word Mumford, so I was intrigued by it, and there was a microbrewery, and I sort of, I wonder if they're relatives. So so I thought I must go there. So I got on the bus and went to the microbrewery, and I bought a pint glass with Mumford on it. It's called Mumford Brewing. So
brilliant. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's great. And Mumford, so Mumford, in terms of your name, obviously we know you as Stuart May, although we pretty much refer to each other through the gamer tags. But the origins of the Mumford part of your name, then, would you just let everybody in on that one if they don't know?
So my great grandmother was her maiden name was Mumford. So I descend from Mumfords that are mainly in the Isles of Scilly, which is off Cornwall, and I think her father was called John Mumford, and I think, if I'm right in saying that, his parents were first cousins. So
okay.
So his mother's met, because there was only about 1,000, 2,000 people on the Isles of Scilly. There's not a great pool of finding back then. So I think a lot of closely related people married each other back in those days.
Right.
So I was given the middle name Mumford, basically because it's my great grandmother's maiden name.
Yeah. And you say, I think we said off camera that the kids kind of like the novelty of your middle name and started to name you that more.
Well, yeah, I mean, back in the late 80s, early 90s, obviously the band wasn't heard of then. So whenever I told anyone what my middle name was, it was like, what? It was like a comical middle name.
Yeah.
So yeah, my friends referred to me as Mumford then. They still do.
Right.
So it's, it's like a childhood nickname that's just carried on.
It's a cool name though, isn't it? Especially with your surname. I mean, that sounds like a superstar kind of name, doesn't it? Mumford May. That sounds a really cool rock star or film star, whatever you want to be. It's a cracker, that is.
Yeah, maybe after the band now that's sort of added a bit of coolness to it, even though I've never bought anything from the band. I don't really like the band. They sound a bit hillbilly to me. So yeah.
Well, you're given.
I always think people mishear me when I say Stuart Mumford May. They say Stuart Month of May.
I see.
So if you say it quickly, that's how it can be heard.
Yeah. Well, no, there's lots you can play with there. I think you're giving Chef a bit of a rundown, because I always thought Grant Prince was the best name so far, but I have to say, if you go for Mumford May, then I think you've got a bit of a name off there to have. Mumford May against Grant Prince. They're both pretty cool.
Yeah.
Could be in the Marvel universe, couldn't they? I think.
Yeah, maybe it could be a rap duo.
Yeah. There we are. We hit on something. We didn't even know we were going to go there, but look what's coming out of this already.
You could bring back Snooker Loopy as Snooker PS4 Loopy or something.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to write all this down, so we're not going to forget these ideas.
Don't hold me to it.
And about, we talk a bit about the game. So the season you're having so far, you've got out of what it's a bit like football. The strongest division is often, or the strongest is the Premier League, but often the hardest to get out of is the Championship. That's very much football wise, but it's also a little bit like that with this snooker league. And you got out of the Championship last season. You're now in the top division. How are you finding it?
Different. The games are a lot harder. The safety play is a lot more advanced. You have to be very patient, which I don't have a great deal of patience in. I'm always trying to look to put a bit of side on a red to try and get it with more angle to go potentially behind the bolt color, but that could leave you open to, if you hit it that touch bit too hard, out pops a red, and that's an easy one for them to get in and frame over. So there's a lot of just going back from bulk and backwards as thin as you can on the reds, and wait till whoever over hits it or whatever, or misses it. This is the one that annoys me, when you try and play a safety shot, you miss it completely, you get right in behind a bulk color, and that's free ball, and that's just as bad as popping one out. And so I would have assumed that I played Gira in the World Championships a few weeks ago, and after 2 sessions it was 5-3. I was chuffed as hell that I was only 2 behind going against Gira,
and only won the next 7 in a row. So he beat me 12-3. But as you say, it was that bit around just how ruthless they are at that level. I mean, he's one of the top ones, isn't he? But you just realize that if anything, it doesn't even feel like it's that loose sometimes. You break and the red's just a little bit right of the pack as you look, and then he'll just get the angle on it, and then suddenly the black's here and he opens the reds, and you just sit thinking, well, I'm out of this already. I've only played one shot. How often that happens?
Yeah, I find the if there's a wing ball that's even a fairly thin cut, I wouldn't go for it. But
Yeah,
they seem you sort of think, oh, the table's safe, and the next minute
yeah,
they're red sailing in the pocket and they've landed on a odd colour, and you sort of think, well, I'm gonna have to practice those shots a bit more.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and the safety play, you said, so I'm a bit surprised to hear that you found the safety play was also better as well. Do you mean the opponents have got good safety games and put you
Yeah,
under
yeah,
pressure?
yeah, yeah. Um, there's they also entice you into doing things. It's they don't necessarily leave you on the side of the pack to go back. They'll leave it sort of so that you can only hit the reds at a fairly acute angle. So
Mm,
that only leaves you the option of rolling up to the reds, really. So and
yeah,
if you try and do anything else, it just spreads the pack open too much. But yeah, it's a good challenge. I'm liking the challenge.
mm,
Hopefully, I'll do enough to stay out for another season. That's the aim this
yeah.
season. However, if I get relegated, then at least I've done one season in the Premiership, and I'm probably back roughly where I belong.
Well, you're fighting well, aren't you? I mean, I'm just looking at the table there as we talked, and you're just a couple of places above the relegation slot. So it's all to play for, really, isn't it, in the second half
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
season?
it's very tight. I mean, I think there's a top 4 or 5 that are you'd expect them to be safe, and then
Yeah.
there's the bottom 4. Any 2 of those
Mm.
can really end up relegated. So we'll see how it goes. It just past the halfway stage, so all to play for.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's a good start. I think, as you say, it's that adjustment. And what's the biggest difference between that and the Championship? Because you've got some good players in the Championship as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I think it's like you said, the ruthlessness of
Mm.
the top players that just don't give you anything, don't let you start. Um, Very patient players.
Mm. Mm. Yeah,
Not that there ain't patient players in the Championship. There's some very good players in the Championship. Um, However, there is a pool of 3 or 4 in the Premiership that are even in that league a bit above the
yeah,
remainder.
yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah. And so going almost to almost why the interest is in the game. I guess I presume most players, when we talk to them on here who are from the league, have an interest in snooker wider anyway. So in the the real sport of snooker outside of the game, the PlayStation game. So what's your, if you like, your interest in the real game? How into it are you? Do you go to tournaments? Tell us a little bit, if you would, Mumford, just about your background with the game as we know it outside of the league.
Well, I've never really been a great sports fan when I was young, up till the age of 14, 15 or whatever. I mean, I was in a household that watched sport on the telly, but I didn't take much interest in it. My brother, he watched every sport under the sun: cricket, football, snooker, darts, everything. So, and I was about 10 when my parents, for Christmas, I don't know whether it was me or my brother, bought a snooker table. It was probably it was smaller than a normal pool table, and it was a wooden base, and the pools were about that big, and the cues were about that long. But yeah, and so we set that up in one of the rooms, and so there was always a sort of table around. I didn't play it a great deal. I think my interest must have began when I watched the '85 final on the telly. It was around about the time when I was leaving school. And I remember staying up watching the final. So that sparked my interest in it.
Yeah.
I went to my grandmother's every Sunday for tea, and she was a huge snooker fan. So
okay.
it was on the telly when she was there. And I remember, I think it was the Mercantile Credit Classic was on the television, and I got really involved in watching it. And it was Cliff Thorburn against Jimmy White. And so I sort of got on the side of Jimmy White, just the way he played.
Yeah.
And, I was disappointed when it got to the pink and the black, and Thorburn, you know, he got to the stage where Jimmy White needed a snooker.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy played this magnificent shot where he sent the pink sort of around the angles by the black, almost missing the black and the pink colliding, and got the white right in behind the pink. So it was a perfect snooker. So Thorburn tried to get out of it but missed it, and then the pink was just majestic, but he potted, and then the black, and just thinking about it now, it just sort of it really fired me up, and I was sort of buzzing after that. And
he's the sort of player that got you off your seat, really, wasn't he, Jimmy White, as you say? And I guess the '85 final was Dennis Taylor beating Davis, wasn't it? And and that, I mean, even now people always talk about it. I feel sorry for Steve Davis in a way, because when you think of how much he's achieved, how many people still go back to that final and losing to Dennis Taylor? So is Jimmy? Sorry, Mumford. No, I cut you off there. You carry on.
It's just comical the way that Steve sort of ribs Dennis and say, "Oh, we're talking about that one again. What about 87, 88? They were good finals."
Yeah, that's understandable.
Jimmy was the first player that I really got into. So I was really a huge fan of Jimmy White's, but he didn't win a great deal other than that Mercantile Credit Classic. Then I mean, I know he won the Masters in '84, but that was before I got into it. But yeah, I was always went into it. And like you say about Steve Davis, I was probably one of many in the country that just hated the way he played, and it was like robotic, and there was just very little entertainment in the way he played. But he was a winning machine, and that's to be admired as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you kind of think about it, don't you? And you think, in a way, he was just brutally efficient, but then there was no flair. Whereas you get, and in a sense, I mean, Jimmy White was unlucky, wasn't he? Because it's a bit like tennis when you had the Federer, Nadal, and Murray and Djokovic. There's so many top players that you're not going to be able to dominate in the same way. And in a way, had Stephen Hendry not come along, you can only imagine Jimmy White would have got quite a few world championships.
Yeah. Would like to think so. I don't know whether someone else would have. I don't know whether it's all Jimmy's way he played, or not.
Yeah. But real box office, I guess that's the thing, isn't it? It depends. It's like even looking at the game now. I mean, thinking about the players on the circuit now, is who stands out for you, and who do you like watching?
My favourite player to watch at the moment is Yan Bingtao. I just find his play fascinating. It's a different game to everyone else's, and other players are finding it hard to know what to do with it. I mean, he's a very clever young player, and I can see him being one of the top, being the top player in about 5 years' time. And possibly dominating for a spell, because the class of '92 won't be around then, and Judd Trump he's 32 now, so he'd be sort of 37 in 5 years' time. So it might be hard for him to keep his form the same now in 5 years' time. So Yan Bingtao, I like watching. Jack Lisowski I like watching, but he's so frustrating to he sort of bottles a lot of matches, and I'm not sure he's actually got it as a match player. He hasn't got the fight, but yeah, I mean, he's done well last season. He got to, was it 3 or 4 finals, and unfortunately run into Trump a few of them. But yeah, I'd like to see Jack Lisowski win a tournament or two. But he seems to be the modern day Jimmy White, the way it's just something that prevents them from getting over the line in the end.
Yeah, it's been really interesting talking to some of the players, and I think we knew this anyway, but you realise just how much the mental side of the game and how important that is in terms of determining your performances at that level. And so you almost see players, don't you, who just look amazingly talented but don't seem to hit the marks at the big tournaments.
Yeah, I think snooker, I mean, a lot of sports is apt, but more so in snooker, where I don't think the players are actually playing their opponents most of the time. I think they're battling against themselves, and it's the one that beats them, their own inhibitions and themselves, that wins. So I mean, what you think of that sequence for your next shot, I should imagine that is all important on whether you succeed or not in the game. You have to be ready, I suppose.
Yeah, you imagine, don't you? It's a bit like, I think that's a bit like that in the PlayStation League as well. It's on a different level because you're not in the same room, but there's still an element there, isn't there, of you can switch off for a bit, somebody's on a break, but also you miss something yourself, or you lose a bit of confidence in yourself. I mean, you really see that on the league. I mean, not talking about myself on purpose, but I'm going through a real patch at the moment. I had a decent start, and I can't buy a win at the moment. And you start feeling it when you're trying to build a break, and you're almost relieved when you hit little milestones. And so even in the league, you kind of can wind yourself up as well, can't you? And I've seen it where other people have almost thrown in the towel, and you thought, yeah, they're losing it. I can't see them, but I know they're losing it.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, because the games we play in the league are like best of 4, the first frame is most of the time what the match is going to revolve around. It's not only getting one up with just 3 to play, it's also if you've made a big break and then the next frame your opponent's cold, and they're sort of, they're going to find it difficult to especially on like half ball ones, to try and find the potting angle and such. So yes, and also you might have let the opponent in for a silly mistake you made, and you're kicking yourself, and at every point that opponent gets making a break, it's like a nail in your heart. And it's and I think your controller gets quite a few bangs on the floor while you but yeah, it's definitely in the head game.
And very precise, isn't it? You know, when you think, for anyone who's played the game on the PlayStation, it's that thing that you almost need to get really close to the mark on the accuracy of it, or else suddenly I mean, the best, and on that, when we had our season review thing last season, I remember Rainey said something about he plays often where he doesn't look for exact position on a particular ball, but he tries to give himself options and just move the white into an area where he's got options on a few balls. And that sounds simple, doesn't it? But I must admit, it really stuck with me, that one, because I thought, actually, I know I always try and think of a certain ball, and then if I don't get it, I almost leave myself messed up. But that was quite good advice, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely got to give yourself the best chance to get on to the next ball. I mean, what I always say is, don't try and do any intricate positional shots that will put you anywhere going by another ball, because if you don't get that spot, you're going to clip that ball that's in the way and be out of position. So yeah, try and away from other balls, and I always try and leave it as far away from the next object ball as possible, because it doesn't really matter how far you are away from the ball. However, the further you are away, the more likely you are to be straighter on that next ball. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a good nugget. Do you know what? We should do one of these one day where we just have different players all giving little bits of nuggets of advice, and then we could compile that as a big montage. That'd be good.
Maybe players are keeping it to themselves. They don't want other players knowing their secrets.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't blame them, but that's another really good nugget. And yeah, I mean, but the league's improving. I don't know how you're finding it, but I just look at it now and think, even I've only been in, like, this is my second season. But there's players coming through now who are going up from the lower divisions, and they're far too good for the lower divisions. But obviously, they're not being put straight up, which is fine, and that sounds like the right thing to do. But that means the level is going up all the time, and you're continuously having to up your game if you're going to compete, which will be interesting for you, really, just to keep where you're at as well.
Yeah. I mean, you can see in 3 or 4 seasons' time that the obviously players that belong in the Premiership will be up there. So you'll probably get players relegated from Premiership at the end of the season that are really hard to beat, and they'll probably dominate the Championship the next season, whatever, and go back up again. So, I mean, it's all good because it improves everyone's game in a way. Because to improve, you need to play players that are better than yourself. So I like playing players that are better than myself, just for the challenge of don't thoroughly enjoy the 20 minutes thing clips off the red safety play, but yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? As you say, that's almost what you missed from the AI side of it. It's just that competition element, and you know fully well that when you line up and you say good luck to each other at the start on WhatsApp or whatever, that you mean good luck, but you're out there, you want to really be that person,
Good luck, but not too much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You want to find the weak spots, you want to find the bits that maybe you can get behind them. But there's that bit like on, I mean, Stephen Endry's autobiography, me and the table, there's that bit that no matter how good your opponent is, if you can get to the table and you can build a break, they can't affect you, can they? And that's the interesting bit about this game.
Yeah, but I mean, and in a ways, the game in Premiership games is not about any breaks or anything. It's the play at the beginning of the game to get in, and then that is in essence what the game is. You're not going to get many games that are down to battles on the colours as such. No. I do enjoy those games where it gets level on the colours. You have to be sort of tactical and all that. I like those. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good, and it's good to hear from your point, playing in the Premier every game now, just to hear more about how you're finding it, and obviously what the level is, the difference of it, and it certainly from when I played Giro, it just felt like it was very explosive. So in that sense, that even when you're tapping around and you're just lining things up and keeping safe, you just know that one false move and suddenly the frame opens up, and then it's gone in a really quick spine. So it's almost like a bit of a dance you're doing around it, isn't it? Before one of you sets it open and just cracks on and finish it off.
Yeah. You find that at the start of the frame, you've got the triangle of reds. Gradually, as the safety play goes, it goes down to sort of just a group like that, where they've just been pushed in from either side each time when one pops out, just to get the safety play on. So
yeah, well, that's great, isn't it? Because it's just your potting skill, but your mental skills as well.
Yeah, and even if you do get a snooker going a bulk colour, they're so good that they'll know the angles to come off and the right pace just to sort of nestle into the reds. So even getting a snooker is not guaranteed to get you in. It's so I do tend to have a go at probably 30%, 40% chances, in the hope that I might get it safe if it doesn't go in the pocket. But that's probably to my detriment. But yeah, I will try and improve my safety game. I'm getting more to know what pace to get the ball off the bolt cushion and possibly in behind the colour. So
yeah,
that's good.
yeah. And your break off, a lot of people talk about the break off. So there's certainly players who are very good at almost sneakering you off the break. Have you got you don't need to tell everyone if they haven't played you yet, but do you have a particular break that you prefer to play?
Well, I copied a break off someone that I saw. I thought, I'll try that one. So yeah, 42% with the bottom line just almost dead straight, but there. And that usually gets you up around just behind the green.
Okay.
There's times where I've just gone a little bit over on the power though, and the red to the left has popped out, and the white's come to the right of the green, and I thought, oh no, that's left them in. So I make sure it's under hit and not over hit, or not on that, so that it's the better side of being in error on.
Yeah. I think Lee Mack said that when he had on his episode earlier. I think he said something around it's sometimes better to just under hit if you're going to go either way, because that'll be less of a problem than if you're over hitting. Yeah,
and I've noticed players that have trying to come off the side cushion and into the side of the pack. They'll have like almost like a dummy run first of all, where they'll make it way short, knowing that they're just going to be put back again and get another try. 4 points. What's 4 points in the end? I mean, how many games does 4 points make a difference in? So
I think at the top level, not many. I think the lower you go, the closer they get. So definitely, And there's certainly a player who was coming off the side and the bottom, and then landing up under the pack. And I've seen him a few times where then if you don't clear the white out the way, he almost then goes into the pack from the bottom and tries to get something in from there. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
But again, that's the beauty of it, isn't it? That's why it's better to play humans who are changing as they go, evolving, learning from each other, getting better, and in some cases having to change their game against other people because they get used to the way they play. So I guess you don't have to tell me. We're nearly the end really, but you don't have to tell me names if you don't want, because I'm sure you don't want to give anyone an edge. But are there any players that you particularly find difficult when you play them, or they've got a bit of a jinx on you, or do you just don't mind who you play?
I think most of them. I mean, I've played them all once now, so I pretty know how much they play. I think the two players that I found played the tightest was Lee Mack and Argira.
So
very patient and won't give you anything. I think of the top players, most open players, J-Boy. So yeah, I like playing J-Boy because at least it's an open game.
Yeah,
but we'll see how the second lot goes. I might change my mind by the time the season ends.
Yeah, well, you're doing well, and it's actually, I know a few people said it. I think No Guts might have said it as well, but it's actually nice seeing guys coming up from the championship. And actually, I feel like you root for them because you think this is new level. I hope you do well. I hope you stay up. Nothing against anyone who comes down if they're already in the division, but it's almost nice to see people go up and mix it and make that step up. So I'm sure there's quite a number of us rooting for you, to be honest.
Thanks. Hopefully I can do it and stay up. I think I've got a fair chance where I am at the moment. Just need to pay more attention to the very first frame, and I think my safety needs tightening up a heck of a lot, because there's frames where off the break I've not got anything other than, I haven't got an edge of a red. I've just got the meat of other side of the reds, where if I try and just roll up to it, just did it a touch too hard or whatever, and
Yeah.
one pops out that they can clear up with.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, pay a bit more attention to my safety game in the second half, seeing that pays dividends, I think.
Yeah, well, look, we'll watch with interest, Mumford. Yeah, it's it'll be good to get a few more guys actually from the same division, just to kind of talk a bit more about their experiences of it as well. And as I think we said before, we'll look to do another group chat perhaps at some point and get different views. But I must admit, the bit around hints and tips, I know that people won't always want to give their biggest secrets away, but maybe that's something we can get people to send them in and put it together as a bit of a montage, especially for new players joining who maybe aren't quite at that level yet, who are just refining the game, trying to learn off people. Then, guys like you have shown that you can build your way up and improve your game. And I'm presuming that's taken a lot of practice and a lot of hours putting in to get yourself to this point, hasn't it?
Yeah, mainly just from tournament play, really. I did play snooker quite a lot growing up. I didn't get to a great standard. My highest ever break was 50. But I mean, for the amount of times I played it and practiced on my own, I should have been a higher break than that. But yeah, pool was more of my game. I've played a lot of pub league pool.
Yeah,
but I probably got to a better standard at pool than what I did at snooker. I enjoyed the chess-like element of pool. It's more. I think pool's more of a tactical game.
Right.
So yeah.
That's interesting, because you could get the impression outside of it that pool's more of a explosive smash 'em up type of game, and just with smaller table. But what you're saying, there's more of a tactical element to it. There's more around that.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of players that will get their thicker tip cue out and get as much welly behind the cue ball to smash the pack, or I'm hoping to get one in. But then the sort of main part of the game of pool is you have to depend on different balls, what position they're at as well. You have to, but I mean, even the rules of pool, they've changed a lot over the years. It was a real tuck-up game when I started in the 80s, and then they brought in the world rules, which made it more open. Players, you didn't have the free ball where you could pot your opponent's ball if you had 2 shots. If you did, that gave your opponent 2 shots. So there's games where you sort of thought, well, I'll benefit from potting their ball over the pocket, but I'll have to gamble they're not going to clear up in 2 shots in doing so.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that in pool.
Yeah. No, and I know a lot of people who like both disciplines, so it's quite interesting to kind of find out more really about pool. And some of the professionals kind of end up going over that way, don't they, in some of the TV tournaments?
Yeah.
So
I was fortunate enough. One time I was living in Chelsea in London, and me and my brother went to play at a local pub there on the Saturday nights. It's mainly full of Hooray Henrys drinking there, so but we like to play winner stays on in there. And one night was fortunate enough that Tom Cruise came in, so we ended up playing Tom Cruise in the night.
Did you really?
So yeah, he was with like 2 of his managers or whatever. And I was playing ball against my brother, and one of the manager blokes rushed up to the table and says, how does it work in here? Like, so I says, well, it's winner stays on, and we just finished the game. And said, right, you're playing him. And then I turned around and there was like short Tom Cruise there. But we ended up playing like for about 4 hours together after and chatting with him. It was a real good night.
Wow. Was he a good guy then? He comes across well, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I always thought that the parts he played in films was of obnoxious American. So I thought he might come across as a bit arrogant, but he was a lovely bloke. And my brother was a landscape gardener, so he was talking to him about gardening and stuff like that.
Right.
And yeah.
Wow.
He didn't have his wife with him at the time, Nicole Kidman, but I gather from what I heard, him and Nicole went in there a few weeks later. I mean, this was back in 94, 95 or whatever.
Right.
He was on his way to Prague to film Mission Impossible at the time. So
okay. Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, that was really bizarre, surreal experience.
Well, you've kept that hidden gem right until the end of this, and I'm really glad that you brought that out, because that's fascinating. Isn't it? That's amazing. That is as a story.
Yeah, it was before the days of or take any pictures, or I did manage to get his autograph, so I got his autograph there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, great. Yeah,
it was scribbled on the back of a notepad from the pub. So, yeah, that was good.
I mean, that's a showstopper. You know, I was about to say that we're going to finish the show, but you've just let it go on an amazing note there. I didn't think when we started talking about Snooker 19 that we'd end up talking about Tom Cruise in the pub, but that's brilliant. That's really good. And obviously, you know, you must, well, and if it was now, maybe you could have swapped numbers and just kept in touch, you know, and just compared notes as he goes through his career.
Yeah, I'm sure he keeps talking about it to this day that he met me.
He's probably watching the league now, isn't he? He's probably going, I'm happy with Mumford. He's you know, I'm not going to do the accent, but I'm happy with Mumford. He's sticking up there. He's giving it some go.
We had to, me and my brother had to sort of teach him to stop hitting the ball so hard, because obviously he was used to American pool, and he was just missing balls because he was hitting them too hard. And he said, "Oh, just play it slower," and then he sort of took that on board and started playing better than at the end of the night. So we just like playing singles and doubles, and at the end of the night, because pubs in those days meant to close at 11. The landlord had a lock in, so we stayed in there sort of like about 12:30, I think, at night, still going on playing. So yeah,
and he is quite short in person, isn't he? No, not that I should be bringing that up, but
yeah.
Because I guess you have an image of him on screen. So was that quite noticeable when you met him then, in terms of? And did you feel like there was any kind of aura around him, in just somebody you're used to seeing on the screen suddenly turns up in the pub?
Yeah, I mean, nobody else in the pub really noticed he was there for a long time. Because the pool tables are at the right back. This is in Smith Street, and just off King's Road in Chelsea, and I think the pub's called Phoenix Tavern. So he must have sort of scooted in and gone to the back of the pub to start playing pool while his manager got drinks and stuff like that. But then gradually people realised he was there, and we had to wait while he was signing autographs for other people, and say, "Tom, it's your shot," sort of thing.
Yeah, Tom, do you want a bag of nuts, Tom?
Yeah, but it was so surreal. You had to sort of keep reminding yourself who he was, because it was like just playing mates for like 4 hours. Yeah.
Well, that's a brilliant story. That's a really good story. So one on the header for this episode, when I write it up, I'll just have to put something like, you know, Mumford, I taught Tom Cruise how to play pool. I think I'll do something like that.
Yeah, and he was talking about the film that he made, Colour of Money. Apparently, he said he did all but one of those shots in that film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Was that with was it Paul Newman or someone?
Yeah. I mean, Tom played a very arrogant sort of young hustler in that film. So
yeah, you were his Paul Newman.
Yeah, he talked about Paul Newman as though he was some like father figure that he looked up to, who was a bit of a sort of a life coach for him. So,
all right.
That was
That's interesting. So if Tom Cruise starts releasing some mayonnaise or something like that, then we'll know where that's come from.
Yeah.
Well, brilliant. I mean, you know what? I couldn't have wished for that. What a brilliant kind of final section of the episode to bring Tom Cruise into it. I didn't expect it, but a great story. And you know, maybe the lads will ask you a bit more about that now when they're playing you or on the WhatsApp. I'm sure we'll. Maybe, who knows? Maybe one day a reunion. Perhaps we can get you and Tom back in the pub at some point.
Yeah. I don't think there's a pool table in that pub anymore. I think it's a sort of wine bar for sort of hooray Henrys and such.
Right.
They
missed
it's in like in the midst of Chelsea.
Yeah. Well, they could have had a plaque put up there and everything, couldn't they? Mumford played here.
Yeah, I mean it's a long time ago now. Was it 27 years ago or 26, 27 years ago? So it's a very old time ago.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool though. That's a great story. I think it's going to take some beat in that. So anyone else who comes on in the future, have a think about some really good stories. But you're going to have a job topping this one. So I think, well, what I'll do, Mumford, is I'll wish you the best for the rest of the season, and I think we'll end there, and we've ended on a really interesting note. But I wish you all the best. You know, it's cool watching how you're getting on. I hope that you have a good second half of the season, and I'm rooting for you. No offence to the rest of the guys in the Premier League, but now that you've got yourself in there, I really hope you stay up.
Thanks, Wrighto. It was very kind of you to say so. I try my best.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you, and I'm sure there's a few of us shouting there as well. So that's great, and you know, that will be the episode. I think it's been fun. It's been nice to find out more about you and about your name and the gamer tag, and about your celebrity story as well. And hopefully, you know, we'll get together at some point and maybe share more stories or even just more experience of how the season goes. So thanks again, Mumford.
Thank you. Look forward to it.